Gemini 3.1 Pro was just announced, and it seems to be going head to head with not only Claude 4.6 Opus, but also ChatGPT 5.3 Codex. And it seemed like the competition isn't even close. Starting off with the article, they said last week they released the major update to Gemini 3 Deep Think to solve major challenges across science, research, and engineering. And they said today they're releasing an upgraded core intelligence that makes those breakthroughs possible, Gemini 3.1 Pro. And it seemed like they're rolling it out today across their developer products and their enterprise level products. And so if you want to know what that means, basically you can go to Gemini Live, or you can use Google Studio or Google Anti-Gravity. I would highly recommend Google AI Studio because it's on your website browser, but you can also try it out on Anti-Gravity because I do also have that myself on my computer. This is building on top of the Gemini 3 series, of course, because it's 3.1, but this 3.1 Pro is a more smarter, more capable baseline for complex problem solving. And that, I guess you'll see it reflected in these benchmarks. And we look at the benchmarks, we see we have Claude Sonnet 4.6 as well as Opus 4.6. And we see that when it comes to humanity's last exam, Gemini 3.1 Pro actually beats out Opus 4.6. Even when it's see with Arc AGI 2, we do see that it beats out both Opus 4.6 and Sonnet 4.6. And if I'm not mistaken, it seems like almost across the board it beats it out. We even see here in the QPA Diamond, let me zoom in a little bit, QA Diamond with its scientific knowledge, it definitely beats it out, which goes back to what it said about how they upgraded the base Gemini 3 Pro to be better at scientific engineering and everything. And 3.1 Pro is another upgrade on top of that. And you see comparisons with Opus 4.6 got 91%, GPQA Diamond has 94%. Terminal Bench, which was really good on ChatGPT 5.3 Codex, is actually better on Gemini 3.1 Pro. Same thing with Sweep Bench sweeps across the board for the most part, but it's still edged out by Opus 4.6 by just 0.2%, which is very close when it comes to percentage wise. It's almost basically a toss up between 3.1 Pro and Opus 4.6 when it comes to Sweep Bench Verify agentic coding. I guess the other two don't really have benchmarks for besides ChatGPT 5.3, which 5.3 actually beats out Gemini 3.1 Pro. The live coding bench, they don't really have too much competition there. It comes to scientific research with the sci code, 59% beating out all the competition. Same thing when it comes to Apex agents, long horizon professional tasks, 33% beating out all the competition. And then you see it again with the agentic tool use. When it comes to telecom, geez, 99.9%, which I guess is the same as 4.6 Codex. So it's not actually beating it out there, but it comes really close to it. And when it comes to retail, it's still close to 4.6 Opus when it comes to that benchmark. Multi-step workflows with NCP Atlas beats out the competition. Browser comp beats out the competition. Multilingual Q&A, 92%, beats out the competition. Long context performance with MRCR v2 8 needle is the same as 4.6 Opus. So basically, it seems like Gemini 3.1 Pro is on par, or if not better than 4.6 in many different categories. They said 3.1 Pro is designed for tasks with simple answers isn't enough. And we see how good it is with these coding examples. What they use as an example, where this person just made a full-blown city planning application. Check it out.
What you're looking at is a tiny little app built in Gemini running on the web browser. And the goal of the app is to eventually produce a believable looking city. Every step along the way, I'm describing to Gemini my goal. Create me many programs to solve individual problems. Then I'm also asking Gemini to assemble back into the larger picture. The very first step is to generate a terrain. Human civilization rests on areas of where resources are. We need to figure out where people are going to live. Where is it that water is? Where is it that the lowest, flattest area is? Because we have these hubs, we can simulate how people travel, and every time they walk, we can create a road path. So the last step is to generate a satellite image. So this is like this drum roll time, right? This is like the most satisfying part of this whole project. I think it followed our roadmap super duper well, right? And what you're going to see is the city, but from a different perspective. And that's wild to me because we went from math to a generated image, and now we're sort of exploring this fictional world, just Gemini, imagining how the city might look. With Gemini 3.1, the model seems to be caring a lot more about the user intent. It's a lot better at improving things that you are intending to change.
And that kind of supports what they were saying about how good it is at coding, but they said it can advance reasoning and making it useful for your hardest challenges. This improvement intelligence can help in practical applications, whether you're looking for a clear visual explanation of a complex topic or a way to synthesize data. This is a head-to-head with Gemini 3 Pro versus Gemini 3.1 Pro, where we see they're making different SVG-like animations to show you how Gemini 3 Pro would handle it versus Gemini 3.1 Pro would handle it. And they look pretty good. Or you see even with like chameleons, even different application effects, and even seem like they have some that follows your cursor around, what they did with the chameleon eyes. Versus code-based animation, 3.1 Pro can generate websites ready animated SVGs directly from text prompt because these are built in pure code rather than pixels. They remain crisp at any scale and maintain incredible small file sizes compared to traditional video. Complex symptom synthesis. 3.1 Pro utilizes advanced reasoning to bridge the gap between complex APIs and user-friendly design. They said in this example, the model built a live area space dashboard, successfully configuring a public telemetry stream to visualize the International Space Station's orbit. As you saw in that video, they able to track the orbit or the telemetry, and it looks pretty good. The map looks pretty crisp. It even looks like it has one of those, I forgot what it's called, topographical or whatever type of maps where you can see the elevation changes, and if you felt one of those globes back in the day where you can actually feel how rough or smooth it was based on how much elevation was there, that was pretty cool. And it seems like that's a 3D visualization of a globe like that. Another one is Interactive 3D 3.1 Pro was a complex 3D Starling murmuration. It doesn't just generate the visuals, it builds an immersive experience where users can manipulate the flock with hand tracking and listen to a generative score that shifts based on the bird's movements. These descriptions are very wordy. Anyway, it seems like it's a generation that mimics a flock of birds and even has sound and interactions with it. Check it out.
After seeing a video of a starling murmuration, I was inspired to ask Gemini 3.1 Pro to code a simulation of one for me. The model created this cloud of boids that interact in similar patterns to a real flock of birds. I then asked the model to make the simulation interactive so I could move the birds with my hands. I also asked the model to create music that would change according to the movement of the murmuration. All of the features in the simulation can be controlled, including the behavior of the birds and even the environment. I was stunned at how beautiful the final result was. Seeing a video.
I think it looks pretty good. It does kind of look what a flock of birds looks like. Basically just black speck just floating. Here's another one, creating code. 3.1 Pro can translate library things into functional code when prompted to build a modern personalized portfolio for Emily. So what you see here is basically a very detailed portfolio, but it kind of takes into inspiration what this person would look and feel like. Check it out. I do like it. It looks very moody, I would say. But they also say what's next. Since releasing Gemini 3.1 3 Pro in November. Feedback hasn't led to improvements. We are releasing 3.1 Pro in preview today to validate these updates and continue to make further advancements in areas such as ambitious and agentic workflows before we make it generally available. So it seems like that's going to be the next step. That may be 3.2 or that may be Gemini 4. They said starting today, Gemini 3.1 Pro is in the Gemini app. It rolls out with higher limits for users with the Google AI Pro and Ultra plans, of course. It's also now on the Notebook LM exclusively for Pro and Ultra users, and developers and enterprise can also access 3.1 Pro now in preview in the Gemini API via AI Studio, Anti-Gravity, Vertex AI, Gemini Enterprise, and Gemini CLI, and Android Studio, which is a lot of places you can actually try it out at. I think these are pretty good to say the least, and the fact that it's being out Gemini 3.1 was being out Gemini 3 Pro, which just came out, as well as it's being out Claude 4.6 Opus. If I come to Google AI Studios, I'm trying to see what is the cost breakdown for this. And we see here that the Gemini 3.1 Pro, the tokens breakdown, the input cost is $2 and the output cost is $12 for tokens less than 200,000. For any tokens above 200,000, the input is actually $4 for tokens over 200,000. So $4 and then $18 as a whole. I think this actually is still cheaper than Claude 4.6 Opus. So if you use Gemini 3.1 Pro, not only is it more powerful in a lot of use cases than Claude 4.6 Opus, but it's actually cheaper than Claude 4.6 Opus when using it. So it means you can probably get more juice for the squeeze and more power when it comes to this, which is something to think about. And this is of course on a million token use case. I do want to know, did it say how much? I don't think it said how much context window it is, because that may be the pricing per million tokens, but let me see. I don't think it explicitly said the context window. I don't think they explicitly said the context window for Gemini 3.1 Pro, but I assume it's probably in the million tokens somewhere, or at least greater than 300,000. I think Gemini had already reached a million token context window, so that's not too crazy. What do you think about those examples, and how do you think this compares to Codex ChatGPT 5.3 as well as Opus 4.6? Do you think this is the new best thing? I will probably be doing a little demos on this and maybe even comparing it to Opus 4.6 and Codex 5.3. But tell me what you think so far. Do you think this is the next best, latest and greatest model out there, or do you think that, well, it's okay until ChatGPT drops again or until Claude drops again? That being said, your boy Dexter out.